Welcome to the Best Music Podcast, where we see behind the curtain and discover hidden habits and success secrets of noteworthy music makers so you can speed up your journey to your dream music goals by taking what you need from their wins and lessons learned along the way. I'm your host, Dan Spencer, and this week's featured guest is Janet Robin. Janet Robin's musical education began the moment she met her guitar teacher, Randy Rhodes of Quiet Riot and Ozzy Osbourne. Under Rhodes' tutelage, Janet became an ace six-string player and, while still in high school, parlayed this education into a position as the lead guitarist for the all-female rock band Precious Metal. Precious Metal released several albums and wrote with Heart, Poison, and Cheap Trick. Robin has toured, performed with recorded or written songs with Tommy Emmanuel, Peppino D'Agostino, Meredith Brooks, Monty Montgomery, Michelle Shockland, Maia Sharp, Marcy Levy, co-writer with Eric Clapton on Lay Down Sally, and Nancy Wilson of Heart, Garrison Starr, and McCue, and many more. She was also the touring guitarist of Air Supply in 2007 and 2008. In 2017, she was named in Guitar Player's Top 50 Acoustic Guitarist bonus list among many notable players. Janet has also had her original songs placed in TV and film such as One Life to Live, All My Children, Felicity, Free Enterprise, and many more. Along with placements, she has also composed original scores for short films such as Traces, directed by Joseph Culp, which was accepted into the prestigious Palm Springs Short Film Festival and the Hollywood Film Awards. In 2017, she had an original song in a short film, Casting All Corpses, which won the Best Comedy Short Award for the Real Hollywood Film Festival. In January 2015, Janet was handpicked to coach and consult actress Jennifer Jason Leigh for the 2 months on location and in Los Angeles for a special guitar scene in the Quentin Tarantino film The Hateful Eight. And my gosh, we might even talk about that scene because it is a viscerally shocking scene. The actress was nominated for an Academy Award, and the scene was not supposed to be in the movie, but made it in, and maybe we'll talk about that. Janet had also played guitar for productions of the musicals Girlfriend, Soul Doctor, and Staring Into Nothing. Along with Janet's busy solo career, guys, for real, I cut her bio down by like 75%. She's done so many incredible things. These are just like, this is the cream of the highlights on top of the jug of milk that is the, insane career that Janet is still just, prolific. She has another band featuring 3 amazing guitar players, The String Revolution. The String Revolution Spotify channel has reached over 4 million streams and counting. The String Revolution's latest release with Tommy Emmanuel is a cover of Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison Blues. Links to listen to the song are in the show notes if you're on audio and in the video description if you are on YouTube. Links in the video description are also going to be there for janetrobin.com and thestringrevolution.com. Janet, thank you so much for your patience while I read through your accolades and all the incredible stuff you've done. How you doing? Thanks so much for coming to hang out.
My mother would have been so proud to hear all of that. That's quite a list. I'm doing well, getting over a little cold here, but thank you for reading all that stuff. When you were going through it, I was like, wow, yeah, that is a lot of stuff. But I am 57 years old, and I started playing guitar when I was 6. So between 6 years old and now, that's 51 years. I better have accomplished something. Yeah.
I would hope so, and you certainly have, and you show no signs of stopping or slowing down. Speaking of your mother, I'm curious, when you started taking lessons with Randy Rhodes in high school, what was your family thinking at the time?
Actually,
what was their reaction to that?
Well, I'll make it short, but I actually was taking lessons with him in elementary school. I was 9.
Oh.
when I started with
Wow.
him. I started at 6 on acoustic, and some classical guitar because my brother was taking lessons, and my mom started trying to take lessons, and I was trying to find, something cool to do. Like, sports wasn't working out, tap dancing didn't work out, karate didn't work out. So I was like, well, they're trying guitar, and so I immediately just connected with it, even at 6. And then my brother, who was older, wanted to play electric guitar. We got a referral. I don't remember how I got asked my mom, but somebody told her about a great electric guitar teacher, Randy Rhodes, who wasn't known as he is now. He was in a local band at the time called Quiet Riot, who also weren't, as big as they are now. And that place where he taught was his mom's music studio, which was literally like 5 minutes from my house. So my mom was like, oh, we're going to go there. So I transferred over there and was studying with another acoustic guitar teacher until I was begging to take electric guitar lessons like my brother. And at that point, I was 9. And so I moved over to Randy. And wow, that was just, it changed my life. It was mind blowing. First of all, at the time, I was the only girl taking electric guitar lessons from him. And I believe I was the youngest, but honestly, he could care less. I mean, he just was such an amazing teacher. He just wanted you to practice. He wanted you to be passionate. He did not want you to play like him. He wanted you to take what we could learn from him and make it our own. That was always something he said. And I didn't know how important that was until I was a bit older, So I studied with him from 9 until he got the gig with Ozzy Osbourne, and I was 15 when he died. Yeah. So that's how that happened.
Brutal honesty. If you
Yes.
had to pick one for the rest of your life, is it going to be acoustic or electric?
Ooh, that's tough. Probably acoustic, even though I feel so connected to electric. I think that, to be honest, you're limited with electric because you must be plugged in. So let's just get, logical about it. Some of the things that, I can do on electric, I can also do on acoustic, and I don't need an amp for it. Also, with acoustic guitar, you have an extra built-in instrument, and that would be a drum, right? So you have extra things you can do on the acoustic that perhaps you can't do on electric unless you have effects or an amplifier going or whatever. But that said, you're asking me, it's like, if I had 2 kids, which one do I love the most?
The house is on fire. Who are you taking out first?
Right. Probably my Taylor. That's my Taylor's over there. But yeah, probably my acoustic. I mean, I still love the electric though. And I mean, it's, this is my baby right here. One of 27. So, I have 27 children and I'm going to save them all. I'm going to be running in and out of the house. So that's just the way that's going to happen.
Is there a system of like blanket conveyor belts where like you like in the event of a fire you pull a handle and all of a sudden like canvas sheets drop down and you send them out and there's pillows waiting for you?
That's a great idea. I wish I could have like a fireproof vault. I have them spread out though. Like some are here, some are, some are in the garage, some are at my mom's house. They're diversified, Some are under my bed. Yeah.
It's like they say if you don't have data backed up in at least 3 places, it doesn't exist. Well, I hear if Janet Robin doesn't have guitars in at least 4 places, the guitars don't exist either. So fortunately, there's guitars in 4 places.
It's true, and the Taylor I'm talking about, if I may, this is the
Please.
This is called a DCSM, Dan Crary signature model, and they're from the 90s, and they don't make it's slightly larger spout and a rather thin a neck.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, very thin actually, almost
It's
like
like
a.
dreadnought size, but very skinny.
That's right. So why? Because yes, I do come from playing electric guitar. So that guitar, that acoustic guitar has almost like an electric guitar neck, but the body is fat and big, and they don't make that model anymore. So I have 3 of them. You gotta have backups. I mean, well, I have a 90, 92. Wait, I have a 90, 93, 94, and 95.
Wow.
So
Not only backups, but also taking selections out of each year to ensure a
just in
diversity of
case.
continuity.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little nerdy, I guess.
Oh,
Anyway,
but I mean, what the joy, the
yeah,
joy, the joy of the guitar nerddom. So
yeah,
when you're going to have, let's say, a recording session like
yeah.
Folsom Prison, you're going in with the String Revolution, you're going with Tommy Emmanuel. Did you guys create the arrangement in the studio? Did you do it beforehand? Like, did you guys know what you were going to do? Like, except for maybe like the solos, right, going in?
So that's a very good question, and good question for your listeners. Um, because I always recommend to my students, if you're going to go into the studio, you must be prepared. No one wants to sit around waiting for you guys to figure out, what parts, who's playing what, where. So yes, we did a couple of demos actually at home first, and this was especially important because we were all flying to Nashville to work at Cash Cabin with John Carter Cash, who produced Folsom Prison Blues, his dad's song. So we better be prepared. Number one, he's working on it. We're at Cash Cabin, and number 3, it's we have one day, one day, and you might think, oh well, one day is enough for one song, but sometimes it's not. So we really had to be prepared. That said, it came together so fast, we didn't have a lot of time to actually play it together. We had run through it a few times as a band, but we weren't exactly sure, where our guest, first of all, who was going to be the guest, and what would he play on? Would he be doing the melody? Would we save a solo section? So we were a little unclear about that, but we knew who was playing what part. We knew which guitars we were going to bring and how we were going to approach the recording. So it was mostly set. But the day, and like I said, it's better to be set with as much possible, that you can, because when you get into the studio, when you work with a producer, ideas happen. And for example, when you listen to that song, we had an intro, and it was much shorter than the one that is on there. And it was just a very small little thing. And then John Carter was in the studio with us. He's like, I think you should build that up more. We should make that longer. Let's evoke some kind of mystery. They might see the title Folsom Prison Blues, but they're not going to hear it right away. And let's build them into it. And we were all like, I don't know, that could be boring, right? But we tried it, and it was amazing. It just, for me, I think it does evoke that mysterious thing. Where's it going? And it kind of captures the listener. So, things like that happen, and you have to be well-versed enough with your own original arrangement in order to make changes, on the fly like that. The other thing that was different too was we added an upright bass player, and we hadn't ever done that before, on any recording. So we weren't sure what he was going to play. We'd never met the guy. We were, he heard the demo, but we didn't know we were kind of leaving it up to him. So I think you want to be as prepared as you can be as a group or as an artist. And then you want to let the magic happen and be flexible enough to let magic happen in the studio, because that's what really it comes down to. It is a record because it is a recording of that day, that time, that feeling that everybody's having in the studio at that moment. So we recorded everything, and we had decided, you know what, we're going to lay a foundation for Tommy Emmanuel. We found out he was going to be our guest. We were so excited, and we were like, we're just going to lay a foundation for him and offer up the melody, for him to do the main melody, or to trade off with Robert, our other guy who was doing the other main melody. And that worked. It just, because when he came, he just laid it down in a couple of hours. We did like 3 or 4 takes with him, and then he was gone. Then we had to edit it, but yeah, crazy.
Can you talk a little bit about the energy of collaboration, the sort of yes and? Because, no one was being precious. It's like the idea of creating an intro that's longer. You didn't say no. This is my idea, and nothing shall be changed. Right? It was like, let's try it. Can you talk about that vibe, that feeling, that ethos, that mindset?
Well, I mean, I come from collaboration in all the different projects I've worked on, and I've done solo work too. But this is a full collaboration, and when we committed ourselves to doing this, it's also an iconic song. And Johnny Cash's son is producing it at Johnny's studio. So, we must be open, to hearing everybody's ideas. He was open to ours too. But, I think every artist, if you're going to collaborate with other musicians in a band, that's why it's called a band. Not one person is always right. If you're a solo artist and you want it exactly a certain way, then great. But that's not what this is, and that's not what this particular project was either. In the band, we all kind of, decide together what works best. When we decide to work with a producer, we have to, now there's like a 4th person in the band, and we chose him for a reason. Yeah, it's obvious, many obvious reasons. And I had already worked with him on 2 solo records before, so I kind of knew how he worked. He likes to be in the studio when we're cutting, like literally like in the room. Most producers are behind the glass with the engineer, but he was sitting there, and it was like, okay, why is he sitting there? And I'm thinking, oh, I know why he's doing that. He wants to feel this vibe, and he wants us to feel his vibe, and wants us to gel and sort of feel like we're kind of fireside, outside playing all together, because the recording was recorded live all at the same time with barely any separation, which is kind of a weird thing too in the studio. Usually you're separated by gobos, or you're in other separate rooms. That wasn't going on. So there was a little bit of mic leakage, and there was other things, but we could see each other, and we were all in the same room. And that does create some kind of sort of energy, a live kind of energy. It creates air, because it's a you're not in a small little room with one mic. All of these things are so subtle, but they make a huge difference. And when I think about it, I'm thinking, that's what John Carter wanted. And it's probably, if his dad was around, his dad probably would have been like, you guys, why don't you just all get in the same room and let's put up some mics and play, and play off of each other. So you have to be open, as an artist, because we're so close to our art. Sometimes we can't see all the opportunities that could be there to make it better, or to make it, more colorful or more exciting. So it is hard because your ego is involved. But this was a little less, I think, hard for all of us because it was a cover. It wasn't our song. And our goal really was to honor the song, yet at the same time put the String Revolution's mark on it, and make sure that people knew it was the song, because of course we are instrumental and there's no vocal on it. So I think we accomplished that, and that's something for your listeners to think about, when they go into the studio. Be open-minded. You don't have to say yes to everybody's opinion or idea, but what I always say is try it first. Doesn't hurt trying it. try it. If y'all don't like it, well, try something else. But it could be really cool. Right? You don't know unless you try it.
So taking a step back from the time in the studio, you mentioned being very prepared, and given the context that you guys had no separation, you had bleed in the mics. What that means is that the stakes are supremely high in terms of modern recording standards. And generally for modern recording, like, you make a mistake, it honestly doesn't matter. Like, there's comping, there's tune, there's time, that anything you want.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, really? We're doing this way? And I did. I had to put my ego in check and everything. And I'm thinking, oh, this is going to be an editing nightmare. And yes, we better not make any mistakes. So this is the God's honest truth. We ran through the song. Again, we had never met the bass player before. We didn't know what he was playing. We ran through the song twice. And we did not know that the engineer had it on record.
Oh, God bless engineers for recording rehearsals, I tell you, because sometimes the magic.
Well, that's what happened. I think it was the second take. We might have taken a few parts from the first take, but that was it. Like, we ran through it the second time, and John was like, okay, cool, we have it. And me and Marcus and Robert and the band were like, wait, what? You know, we're like, we were just running through it. You know, I wanted to hear what the bass player was going to play, and then we wanted to go in and listen. Does that work? You know, he's like, no, we're done. And I'm like, oh my God, okay. So talk about being open. I was like, okay. So, you know, we had to make a few adjustments, and it was difficult to make any, you know, if there were a few little mistakes, we had to be spot on in fixing. But there was not much comping at all. It was because you couldn't, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we had some editing we had to do later, but most of that editing had to do with Tommy's part, because he did a couple of takes and they were so good. We were like, oh my God, what part do we do? It's all so good, you know? So yeah, that was really shocking. I had never been in a recording session before where I thought we were just running through the song and it was actually being recorded. But there's something to that, isn't there?
Anytime I'm involved in any type of recording of anything, it's record from the second everyone steps in the studio. Always.
That's what the engineer said. Yeah.
You have to. The first take and the second take, when no one's thinking about it, can be this level of magic, because everyone is playing. You're doing. Everyone's just the inner child, just being, just present, you know, and there's no stakes. And once there's stakes, it's the mindset thing of the stakes, and like, oh, the mental games, and that can take away the feeling of the freedom.
You're right. I mean, I was still trying to remember my parts, but I guess I got the parts, and, you know. But you're right about the overthinking part, because, you know, once you start analyzing and picking apart it, because you're able to do that, you know, these days, like you said, with Pro Tools and, you know, Logic and everything. But yeah, there's something to that. And I think it did create an energy, you know, and so there you go, you know, John Carter, he knows what he's doing.
The track has a magic to it too. Like, it's tight, but it's also raw in a sense. Like, it's
yeah.
Everyone go check it out. Links in the video. After this. After
There's more. Yeah. There's more. Anyway, yeah.
So let's take a step back from that and let's talk about the preparation. So did you guys as a group create the arrangement and sort of start tossing ideas out? And how did that process work? Were you doing it asynchronous? Were you getting together? How did that all go down?
It was actually a combination of that, and that's pretty much how we approach all of our arrangements, original music as well. You know, we get together, we try out different ideas, we record it on just like voice memos. Then we go home and hibernate in our studios and sort of hyper focus on well, what's the stronger thing that I can contribute to this? And we start sending back like mini demos back and forth. And Robert had sent, we didn't have an intro, we didn't want to go right into the song like, oh, here's Folsom Prison. We don't do any of our covers like that because if you're going to do a cover, I mean, honor the song so people know it's the song, but you better make it your own. Otherwise, don't even attempt. So we were a little lost with the intro. And he sent us this intro idea, and I was like, whoa, is it da 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 da? And I'm like, where did that come from? It was kind of jazzy in a way. And I was like, wow, that's super cool. He sent us his little demo of that. And then we put it together with I'm basically doing the, I'm the right hand lady in the band. And then Marcus was doing all these color parts. And then Robert started playing some of the melody, and so then we made a demo, like a regular demo of all of us, playing our parts separately. And we did that a couple of times. We had to, revise it a few times before we sent it to John. But that's kind of the process we go through. And it's pretty much the same process for every song we do. Like I said, whether it's an original or a cover, we'll get together, we come up with ideas together, we record them on our iPhones, we go home and work on them a little separately and send, mini demos back and forth until we decide, okay, this is your part, this is your part, and this is your part. And then, even then, when we get in the studio and record, we may, as I told you, we may change some things.
So what was your preparation process like for going in once you had the arrangement established? And specifically within that, what benchmarks of preparedness, if any, were you trying to hit or were you aiming for?
Well, what I feel is really important, especially in the studio, is playing in time. So we did play to a click, although we got off the click a little bit, which maybe that's okay because there is this energy on there, but I'm always trying to play to the click, play into the metronome, And so I practiced my part quite a bit to the click, to the tempo that we had chosen, just my part, And then I practiced to our demo that, was just a demo. It hadn't, gotten big yet into the full final arrangement. And that was pretty much it. I wanted to make sure my dynamics were where they needed to be. Where was I going to get quiet? Where I was going to open up? If I'm doing, and basically, again, my main part is holding down the rhythm. So where am I going to be simple? Where am I going to maybe do a hammer on a chord or something, to make it a little more interesting? But again, you have to be, less is more, because there's, you got 4 guitars playing. It could be a disaster, So sometimes it's good. Just lay down, just keep it straight and play in time. And that was my goal, for arriving at the studio and being prepared.
I can attest to being a unfortunately willing participant in a couple of 4 guitar disasters myself. So I'm very glad that was not the case. So you're talking about, practicing with the click for going to the studio, which is phenomenal. Now, within that, are you recording yourself, listening back?
Yes, I'm doing all of that.
Right. And then within the click too, are you ever playing games with yourself, like you putting the click at half speed, putting the click at 4x speed, clicks?
I have not done that. No.
Oh, okay.
That's a really good technique, though, and I've told my students to try those things, but I haven't done that.
But like at this point, your artistry, your technique, everything is there to the point where it's like, if that doesn't happen, it doesn't really matter. Like if you're on the click, you're on the click, and you're on the click. So like, why? Right.
You would hope so. But again, when we listen back, we're like, oh, there's a couple spots there we got off the click. But John was like, no, that sounds cool, And, but the perfectionist in us was like, wait a minute, So it's such a dichotomy of making sure you're on top of your chops and your skill and your craft is there, and then forgetting about that. Because again, we're creating art. We're not creating perfection. If it's perfect, it's not art, and I have to remind myself of that. There is no such thing as a perfect art. There's nothing that's perfect. It's only what it is in the moment. And you hope that your skills and all your practicing and everything, bring you to that moment. But when it's time to do it, like I liken it to a live show, right? Because when you play live, it's live. You make a mistake, everybody's going to hear it. You can't take that mistake. You can't go back and punch in. You cannot do that, So you better be prepared. I often tell my students, be prepared for a mistake. How are you going to get out of the mistake to make it look like you didn't make a mistake? That's a real skill right there, if you're performing live, right? So you have to kind of just, practice as much as you can, be prepared as much as you can, and then jump in the pool. Just let it go. Just do your job. Do the best you can.
Janet, would you be willing to entertain one more question?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Thank you.
I'm here to help people because I had a lot of help myself from some great people in my career. So I would like to give that back.
That's beautiful. Thank you for making this platform and this time here with us and with me be one of those moments where you're giving back. I appreciate it. And on behalf of everyone who's going to hear this, thank you too. So I don't know if people are going to find this interesting, but I am very curious what it's like to get a call from a film studio to go coach someone for 2 months to play a guitar that gets loaned from a museum and ultimately does not make it back to the museum in one piece. So with that teaser, Janet, would you sort of walk us through the story from your perspective? Like, what was that experience like? Like, how did that go down? Did they like buy you out for like 2 months of your life? Like, were you still doing other work?
Yeah. Well, I was trying to do what I could, but yeah, I mean, in Hollywood fashion, I got a call and they're looking for a guitar. There's a director, I can't tell you the name, who's looking for a guitar coach for a major actress. Can't tell you the name. For a major new movie. Can't tell you the name. And it'll probably be a couple months of work. You have to go to Telluride. We'll put you up in a condo there. You have to be on set. It could be 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I mean, God knows what is. If you've ever been on a film before, when you say yes, that you're their property, basically. So I was like, wow, okay. So I actually did a little research because you can kind of go online and see what films are in production because the film is already in production. They did tell me it's a Western, and so I looked it up and I was like, oh my God, this is a Tarantino film. And I'm thinking, they said actress, and there's really only one girl, isn't there, in that film? So
I haven't seen it in a while. I don't recall.
Jennifer Jason Leigh, wow. Okay. So I said yes to it. I had to put the band on hold for a little bit. That's okay. It was actually during, it was like right after the holidays. So we were kind of in a, hibernating period still. It was 1 month there in Telluride, and then like 3 weeks or so here in LA. And when I'm back home, I can do a few other things, even though I was pretty much there 7 days a week. The last week, I was not there. I had to leave for a couple of things, a family situation, and then also a gig I had. So to be honest with you, I wasn't there on the scene of what happened when they filmed it. I also, many times I wasn't in the actual studio watching it being filmed, because Quentin is very, he doesn't like a lot of people hanging around. So, and that's fine. I didn't need to be there. When I worked with Jennifer, we were in her trailer, or I was at her hotel where she was staying, or I was at her house out here. Martin had loaned a priceless 1800s, parlor guitar from their museum. And I mean, this guitar was amazing. And I happen to have a prop from the film, if I may show you. Here it is.
Please.
So there's the prop, official prop, and it looked exactly like this guitar. It was amazing. I mean, it was a beautiful guitar, and everybody was really careful with it. At the end of each, filming day, the prop master would come in, take it from Jennifer, put it in the case, and, lock it up and all that stuff. So they had a lot of these props, and they had the original Martin, and they had actually a backup Martin as well that wasn't as, it was valuable too, but it wasn't as valuable as that one, and it didn't come from the museum. I think the film bought it on eBay or something. But I worked with Jennifer day in and day out. She was not a guitar player. She had to sing and play kind of a complicated finger picking piece, and on top of that, she had like she was chained, like in the scene, she has a chain on, like some handcuff or something. And she's wearing this big, like, old school Western dress, fluffy. And she was sitting, and there were ways he wanted her to play. Quentin is very, he wants it to look exactly like that time period. And he wants everybody, whatever they're doing, shooting a gun, playing piano, playing guitar, he wants it to look like they've been doing it their whole freaking life, So I gotta say, she was super committed, and we worked on it day in and day out. I mean, it was a constant all the time. And then, I had to go out of town the last week of filming, and I'd heard that, I got a call that while they shot the scene, they waited to the last, basically week of filming to shoot that scene. And what had happened was, in the scene, she is, singing and playing, and Kurt Russell at the end of the scene is supposed to take the guitar out of Jennifer Jason Leigh's hands and smash it to pieces. But what's supposed to happen is she sings the song, finishes it. Quentin's supposed to, yell, cut. The prop people come in, they switch out the guitars, and they do the rest of the scene. So they did several takes that way, except for the last take. And no one really knows what happened. And I wasn't there, like I said, and there are various stories on exactly what happened. But what I heard was that, they did another take, and Quentin didn't yell, cut. And, you don't interrupt Quentin Tarantino. It's just, the camera's rolling. So, and Kurt, I think he wasn't completely aware of all of the, intricacies. And so he just continued with the scene. And they didn't switch out to the prop. And he grabbed the guitar, and her face is just like, and he smashed it. And that is a real expression. And that is the scene that is in the film. And he smashed that guitar into pieces. And then, Quentin yells, cut. And everybody, what I heard was that everybody in the filming studio, it was like silence. They were like, oh my God, they just smashed like a $200,000 or priceless, I think it was insured up to $200,000 or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
And, there are various theories. Oh, Quentin knew this, and why he wanted to get that real expression. I don't believe that, to be honest with you. I just think Quentin I love him so much, by the way. He was so amazing. We did have a few breaks, and he came up to me once and said, why don't you play, I know you have your own music. Why don't you book a show here at like a bar in Telluride? And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, I'll come see you. And I was like, really? So I did, and he did. He showed up. I was playing my own stuff and a couple of covers, and he showed up, and he was like having a beer. I don't know. He's a very interesting person. But anyway, I don't think anybody did anything on purpose. I think it was really an accident. He is so involved in his art, and he's so creative, and so just, when he's in the moment, he's really not thinking about all these technical things. And I think it was probably a great scene that was going on, and he just didn't think about stopping it. And so suffice to say, that's the end of Martin loaning out any instruments from their museum. And that was the end of that. True story.
Well, true story, and we will also include a link to that clip. It is,
that, and when you see the guitar breaking, that's the guitar.
Oh gosh.
I would like to interrupt you for 1 second though, because parlay that to being in Johnny Cash's studio at Cash Cabin.
Yes.
I'm bringing it back to Folsom, and here's why.
Sweet.
When we were recording Folsom Prison Blues, John Carter Cash does have a vault, and he has not only, original tapes from his dad and all that, but he has guitars in there, and he has his dad's original 1930s Martin in there. He pulled it out. He gave it to Marcus, one of the bandmates, and he's like, here, check out my dad's guitar. And Marcus is like, okay, what am I supposed to do with it? And he's like, you're supposed to play it on the track. And Marcus is like, this one? He's like, yeah, I want you to play my dad's guitar. So that Martin, Johnny Cash's original Martin, it's not an 1800s one, but it's from the 30s. It's a Martin H or something like that. Is the guitar that Marcus is playing on the track. On top of that, we were about to leave the studio. We had finished everything, and we were, digging around in the vault. And the engineer is like, oh, I want to show you this guitar. Check it out. This is a 1952 Fender Esquire, which is almost like a Tele, but almost like that, but different. And he's like, check this out. And I was like, oh, this is bad, man. What is this? He's like, that's Luther Perkins' guitar that he used on the Folsom Prison recording. And I'm like, wait, who's Luther Perkins? And what? Pardon me. So he said, yeah, that part where you hear.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, this like the. Also this part.
Yeah.
That part. That is the guitar he used on the recording. And so John Carter had bought that guitar from Luther Perkins' widow. And Luther was Johnny Cash's electric guitar player. So we're like, should we use it on the recording? We had packed up, everything was put away, the mics, everything. Our amazing engineer, Trey Call, he said, you guys, we got to do it. You're right. You know what? I'm going to set up the mics again. We're going to get a cool amp going, and let's just at least get that one riff. Bom, 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 bom. And that's what's on the recording as well.
Wow.
None of them got smashed. So there you go. True story with that.
Guitars around the world breathed a sigh of relief on that day as none of them were smashed.
Thank God.
Well, Janet, thank you so very much for being so generous with your time. You just went super late with us, past above and beyond anything you committed to. You're welcome back. Anytime you have a release you want to come hang, you let me know.
Peace. Thanks, man.
Beautiful. Take care.
See ya.